Hi everyone, my name is Eitan Miller and welcome back to the Industry Training Series. I'm the Equipment Manager here at NBS and today we are going to be starting our C300 Mark II build. So let's get started. Over here we have our tripod legs and so we're just going to pull those out right here. So this is a little handle, this can be a little tricky. This pops up, but if you're trying to put it back, you just need to twist it and push down. Just pull it to the side. That's just something I found a little difficult when I first saw this, but this is a great handle we can use. Also, if we're gonna raise this tripod, we can just open these up here, bring this up to a good level, and close them down. So let's get the head. So the head for this tripod comes in a separate case. This is an Oconnor head. So these are the main two pieces. This is a ball head. So this is gonna screw into the base here. So what we can do is set this up right here, get that screwed on there. So there's a little level right here, and we can use that to make sure that our tripod head is level with the ground, especially if we've been moving the legs, they're probably not gonna be perfect. So this can roll around in this ball head here, and I can just get this in position. So before we throw our VCT plate on, just one thing to keep in mind, this little knob right here is the pan lock, and that's something we're always gonna want open. There are gonna be very few times when you're gonna be locking that. The tilt mount is on the side here, and that we're gonna keep locked so the camera doesn't fall. And we're also just gonna put on our arm right here. Okay, so we're gonna put this VCT plate on here. So the first thing that we need to do is move this lever all the way to the side. Then we're gonna put it in from the back and press down, and we can see that this isn't really going anywhere, and then we're just gonna push this all the way down so it's fully locked into place. All right, so the next step is to get our camera set up. So we're just gonna close up this Pelican case and get started. So here we have the PL mount version of the C300 Mark II. And what we're gonna wanna do is just slide this on all the way from the back, just get even with these rails, and make sure this is back, this red lock right here, and then we just close it on once this is all the way on here. Now we're just gonna start attaching some basic accessories to our C300. So this is the small monitor that comes with the C300. You're not gonna want this on every time, but we're gonna set it up right now just because it's easy to use the control panels here. So we're gonna slide this on the top, and then you can just tighten down this knob right here. So next we have some basic power cables. So we're going to run video into here. So there's a little white arrow right on here, and there's also a white arrow right on the side here. So we're gonna just line up the two white arrows, and you don't wanna push too hard. It should go in pretty gently, and if you're taking out a cable like this, what you do is you pull on this barrel, this moves down right here, so you just grab from there and pull it out. You never wanna force this out, because if you yank it out, you could damage this. These cables are relatively malleable. So what we're gonna do is go out from video here to where it says video on the side. So we're just gonna open that right up here. And there's that arrow, and the arrow is also right here. So we're gonna line that up and plug it in, and there we are. Same thing with sound. So we have audio right here, line up the white cables, now, to power this camera, we have DC in right here. And so this LEMO cable is gonna go right in here, and we have this red dot. And LEMO cables are also really delicate. So this is another thing, you're just gonna wanna give it a nice, gentle little push, and it's just really gonna be in there. Again, when you're trying to remove it, you pull on the side of the barrel right here, and that will pull the whole cable out. So we're gonna be running this out to a V-mount battery, which we're gonna be putting on shortly. So I'm just gonna let this hang here for right now. So the next step is to put on some rails. So I'm gonna spin this out back here, and we're gonna put our longer set of rails in the front. And so this red knob twists out and then just twists back down. And we wanna just make sure this is nice and secure. And these rails are great for mounting accessories. We're gonna put our map box on here as well as our lens support that we talked about in the last video. We have a smaller set of rails that we're gonna put in the back here. And we're gonna use that for mounting our V-mount plate. So next we're gonna put on this side handle. And so there's this little plug here that plugs into the side here, and that's gonna just give you control with the start-stop button right here. And so we're gonna just push this in and then twist it. And the nice thing about this is you can put it in slightly different orientations based on your operating preferences. So the next step is we're going to put the lens on our camera. So we're gonna open up this lens we talked about in the last video. And before we can put that on, we talked about this support plate. So that's just gonna go right on here. We're gonna slide it on. We can adjust the exact positioning once the lens is there, tighten that down, and this also moves up and down to work with our lens. Next, we're gonna twist open our PL lock and take this cap off. You don't want to keep this lens open for very long. We are in a studio setting, so it's not like there's sand or dust that's gonna get blown in, so it's okay to leave it for a few seconds. But if you're ever on location, you always want to make lens changes as fast as possible. And even in studio, when you don't think anything could go wrong, you still want to keep your sensor open for a relatively brief amount of time. So what we're gonna do is take out our lens. We're gonna leave these caps in the case. So before you put on your lens, you're gonna want to make sure your PL mount is twisted open all the way. Next, we're going to line up our lens and then twist while holding the lens in place. And before you let this go, you wanna just give it a little feel with your hands to make sure this is actually stable. Next, we're gonna adjust our lens support. So we're gonna slide this a little bit. And then we're gonna raise the centerpiece to make sure we're properly supporting our lens. Next thing we have to do is attach a battery. So there are two different types of batteries that people use, and the one that I've come across most is V-mounts, but gold mounts are the other option. And V-mounts or V-locks are called that because there's a V right there. So what you're gonna do is line up the back here and just push it straight down. So the next thing we're gonna do is plug in our V-mount. So this is called a D-tap, and this is commonly used because many accessories that need power, you wanna be able to power them straight from your either V-mount or gold mount battery. When you're connecting these, you don't necessarily want to use whatever output is right on the battery itself, because you'll see right here we have a D-tap on the battery. The problem there is each time you need to switch batteries, you're gonna need to re-plug in everything, especially if you have multiple things plugged in. So if you can plug stuff into the base plate, that's gonna be your V-mount adapter, that's gonna be much better. So you're gonna see on each of these a little positive and negative mark, and you're gonna wanna make sure you line those up. So it's gonna normally be marked on most plates, and most of the time it's not gonna let you put it in the wrong way. Give it a nice just push there, and then we're gonna bring this right back around. And then if everything is plugged in correctly, we will be able to turn on our camera. So there's a little switch right here where we're gonna turn that on, and we should see that we will have power here in a second. Most cinema cameras have a short startup time, so it's not going to be instant, but we can see we do have something on the screen there. So the next thing we're going to talk about is media. So the C300 takes CFast cards. So this is a CFast card, and you can see these are the little pins that are going to go in first. And if I spin this camera around, right behind the battery plate here, there's a little latch that we can loosen and just slide this right in here. Give that a little push, and then pop this door down, and we are good to go. So when you're managing CFast cards, the most common thing to do is once you take a card out of the camera, you're going to want to put tape over those contacts that I just pointed out. And what that's going to say to the DIT or whoever is managing media is that this card has been written on, and that card should not be removed until that card is backed up and that card is ready to wipe. And on that, it's customary to write the number of the card. And so once we put our map box on the next episode, there are different things that we're going to be writing in tape on the camera build. So we're going to have any filters, we're going to write that in tape and put that over here. And on the side of the camera, what we would do is write on tape A001 and just stick that right over here. And the second you pull a card out, you're going to take that A001 tape and tape it over the contacts. And the reason we're going to start with A001 is because this is camera A. If you're shooting with multiple cameras, you'd also have B001, etc. And then each time you have a new card, you're going to go up to 2 and 3 and 4, etc. and keep going up. And so this way, the DIT or whoever's managing media is going to have a clear understanding of what card you're on, and you will know that once that card has been removed, once the tape has been removed from the card, you are clear to format that within the camera. The next responsibility of an AC that's important to remember is batteries. So especially as a second AC, you're going to want to set up a battery charging station. And this is going to want to be a space to the side of the set that's not in anybody's way. And it's generally good to check with either your DP or the Best Boy Electric to make sure that the outlets you're plugging into are safe to plug into. Because on a film set, that's really never something you can assume that you can just plug into an outlet. So you're going to want to set up for any type of batteries you have a charging station, and you're always going to want to be monitoring that, both the first and second AC. That is your responsibility to make sure you're never without a battery. So the way to check a V-mount is there's a check button, and you press that right here, and this will light up with how much charge is left. There's normally an indicator on the screen too, but especially if you're a second AC, maybe you don't have clear access to the monitor, but this is a lot easier. You can just be right on top of the camera build. Many other batteries, specifically Canon LP6 batteries, do not have this, so you're always going to want to have more than you need ready. It's always handy to carry a few in some sort of pouch just on you, so if a battery runs out, you can have it with you, pop it in, and be ready to go. So one last thing that we're going to do at the end of our build is balance our tripod, and that's not something we've really been focused on yet. But cable management and balancing the tripod come last because you want to make sure you have everything that's going to be on your camera all set. And then because of the type of head this is, there are springs in there, there's all sorts of fancy stuff, counterweights, and we're going to want to make sure that you can put the camera in any position and it's not going to tilt over. You're going to be able to keep it exactly where you want it. So that's something we're going to come back to and is important to remember. So stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.